Resolve series. Of course, this is a virtual event due to the pandemic, but we're very glad to have everybody here on behalf of Nexus Louisiana. And this whole series is aimed at a conversation about equity and entrepreneurship for minorities. My name is Calvin Mills Jr. I'm your moderator today, as well as I have the great pleasure of being the chairman of the board of directors for Nexus Louisiana. I'm also an entrepreneur myself. I am a award-winning serial tech entrepreneur with multiple tech companies here in Louisiana, and I'm just excited to be here today. The Resolve series kicked off a couple of weeks ago, pretty much with a loose roundtable discussion of entrepreneurs and community members, having some open discussion about Blacks and minority entrepreneurs in this industry and what that looks like. Yesterday, we held a panel discussion to access the capital, which was real good. After the session, we watched both of those conversations on video. If you did miss it, it was recorded, so you can always go back and take a look at that. Today, we're going to continue that conversation with networking. How do you get your foot in the door? How am I able to get to these contracts, to get at the table, to get my foot at the table? I'm really excited about that. We got some great panel. I'll be introducing them in just a second. But also, I want you guys to know if you have any questions, you can submit a question for us to answer. If you want to get involved and want to know more about your business, you can also click the link at the bottom of the screen. One of the things I want to do is just some different things I need to get out first is tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the last day of the event. We're going to close with a discussion on what's next for Baton Rouge in equity and entrepreneurship. The same link placed at the bottom, you can register for that as well. So let me go ahead and bring on our sponsor. Of course, my company, SLT Technology, is one of the sponsors, but we also have a great sponsor in ExxonMobil. I'd like to have Ms. Caroline Mays come to the stage. Caroline is the contracts administrative supervisor at Exxon, and I want to find out from her exactly what made Exxon want to become a sponsor of this event, and I'll also kind of share my reasons behind it as well. So, Caroline, thank you for coming on, and please, why did you become a sponsor?
Okay. Thank you, Calvin. So Exxon is proud to sponsor this series, as this dialogue is even more important during this current time. There's, of course, a lot of uncertainty right now, lots of things that are out of our control. But what is in our control is how we come together and collectively help create equity in the entrepreneurship space, so that we are fostering sustainable growth and long-term success. ExxonMobil, of course, values a diverse and inclusive workforce. And so expanding those opportunities to our diverse suppliers brings about a variety of perspectives, ideas, and practices that we believe will positively grow our business.
And I will say this, Exxon has always been a huge influence in the Baton Rouge community, and we're all very grateful for a lot of the contributions that you all have made over the years. Myself as an entrepreneur, as a minority entrepreneur, I honestly became a sponsor, not just because I'm a board member, but more importantly, because I saw the value in it. I saw the opportunity to really help bring it home to individuals that are trying to move forward as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, and wanted to get that information. I believe Nexus Louisiana has a lot to offer people here in this community, especially minorities. Believe it or not, it comes full circle for me, because as a student at Southern University back in the day, when I got out, started my company, I actually came to the tech park looking to become a client of theirs, and now come full circle as a successful entrepreneur, and now as a board member and to become the chairman. It just shows that putting in that work really has opportunity to grow and have value for you in your life. So for me, it was a no-brainer to be a sponsor. I'm glad I'm in a position to be able to do that. And that was pretty much my reasons for wanting to become a sponsor. So with that, I'm going to bring on our other panelists. man, we have some great panelists, especially a good friend of mine, someone I've watched for a while. This girl, you know, she does it all. She wears a lot of hats. And I know for a fact the mayor ain't letting her go anywhere. Courtney Scott, who is the assistant CAO for the city of Baton Rouge. Hey, Courtney, how are you?
I am well. Good morning, Calvin. Good morning, everyone.
Welcome to have you. We also have Mr. Khalil. He's the CEO and co-founder of Mintor, chapter director of Startup Grind in Baton Rouge. Welcome. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Wow.
Say something.
No. Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, there you go. All right. Welcome. And last but not least, another person that I've been keeping an eye on. We met a while back at the Governor's Mansion event a long time ago. Miss Nenette Gray, founder and CEO of Lemonade Creative Marketing. Miss Gray, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous, Calvin. How are you?
I'm good. Let us see that beautiful face of yours. You're on, I think your video is off.
Oh.
I think she's on. I can see her.
Oh, you can?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see me.
Okay, it's not showing on mine. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And of course, again, Ms. Caroline Mays with ExxonMobil. We're definitely glad to have you here as well. So welcome. So if you guys would, we'll kind of go in order. Just give us a little brief description about what you do and who you are, and we'll start with Courtney.
Thank you, Calvin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Courtney Scott. I am Assistant Chief Administrative Officer in Mayor Broom's office. Also go by the cultured name of Courtney Hustle, which is a moniker that I have adopted just because of my approach at life and how we go about achieving things, not only professionally, but personally as well. I oversee the Office of Community Development. I also oversee MOSEP and work on any strategic initiatives that Mayor Broom has. And I also moonlight as a radio personality as Courtney Hustle with the Cumulus Media. So much love to my Cumulus family on Q106.5.
Nice. Yeah, you definitely are Courtney Hustle. It seems like I never see you resting. I'm always seeing you moving around.
That's the passion and heart. It's heart and hustle.
There it is. Mr. Kasra, tell us a little bit
Hey,
about
how we
yourself,
doing? Thank you. So my name is Kasra Khalili. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mintor. We are an exclusive networking app for entrepreneurs. I'm also the chapter director of Startup Grind, where we put on monthly fireside chats, pitch competitions, lounge events, things of that nature, anything to bring entrepreneurs together. We started that just this past December, so 2019. I've also authored a book called Ask Holes, How to Give First and Network Later to Build Valuable Relationships. My space is essentially networking, and it was driven by the fact that I was born in Iran. I moved to the States when I was young, and my family was unnetworked. And especially here in the South, we really did not have any connections of any kind. And so this has kind of been my driving force, and I'm excited to be here to talk about it.
Nice. Definitely like the fact I'm an author myself, so I always like to see other authors, putting that knowledge out there for people. So congrats on that. Miss Gray.
Yes. Hey there, I am Nenette. Yeah, I'm Nenette Gray, and I'm the founder and CEO of Lemonade Creative Marketing. We're a branded merchandise marketing agency here in Baton Rouge, and we're celebrating our 10th year in business. Prior to starting the company, I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and they did a massive layoff, which, my position was one of them. And at the time, it was a crossroads. Do I continue on this corporate path that pays very well, or do I follow the passion for entrepreneurship? So at that moment, I decided to turn the lemons of losing my pharmaceutical job to make lemonade. And so that lemonade spirit is sort of like Courtney. I'm considered the lemonade lady. Yes. Because that's my attitude about life. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you respond. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Calvin.
We're glad to have you. And last but not least, of course, Miss Mays. Tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Caroline Mays, as previously noted. I'm a mechanical engineer by degree. I'm proud graduate of Southern University.
Go
Baton Rouge
Jags.
native. Yes, go Jags. Baton Rouge native, and I've been working with ExxonMobil for over 20 years. And as mentioned previously, my current role is I'm responsible for all of the contracts and contractors in the Baton Rouge area. I've had an opportunity to be in an array of different positions through the years, both engineering and managerial. But one of the things that I'm most proud of is the fact that ExxonMobil has allowed me to grow my passion. I'm very passionate about what it is that we're doing in our community. I'm very passionate about what we're doing from an inclusion and diversity standpoint. I'm very passionate about what we're doing also in the supplier diversity space. And so I've been able to utilize the experiences and knowledge that I've gained while working at ExxonMobil, as well as being a Baton Rouge native, to make those connections and make those ties to where we have a win-win. And like I mentioned, Baton Rouge is home to me. So it's very important to me that we continue to seek out opportunities and create sustainable opportunities as well, so that we can continue to make our state great.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're going to dive right on into some questions. Attendees, as we're asking these questions, please, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, you can put them in the chat. If we have some polls going on as well. So please make sure that you guys are interacting with us as we go through this conversation. So let me ask this question. As you guys know, over the last 6 months, globally, we all have been stuck in this pandemic, something that nobody has, could have ever seen coming. I want you guys to kind of give me what has been a high point over the last 6 months for you, and then after your high points, what has been something that's been very difficult for you to handle as we've gone through this tough time? Anybody can start.
Well, I can answer there. The last 6 months has been pivotal for everyone, but I want to give an analogy that I was telling someone earlier, is that there's oftentimes like a slow cooker when you're in that season and you're being patient and you're wondering, are you done? And if it's ever been your first time cooking and you cook something in a slow cooker, you're like, am I doing something wrong? Because it's not done, it's not there, but you have to wait. And that's part of the process. That's how all of the stuff gets to working within that process. So for me in this season, although I've been working in Mayor Broom's office for the last 2 years, I was promoted to assistant CAO in this season in May. But I saw myself being groomed and postured for that because my predecessor would have me in rooms with him. I oversee emergency preparedness. So think about 2020 walking emergency preparedness season. So when we're preparing for COVID and going through those things, it's been a season of building and growing and patience and leaning on your own understanding. So that's been a big thing there. But secondly, it's also been a season of whole community, which is about networking, because you have to lean on people and everyone's expertise when it comes to this, because every area of our lives has been impacted. Education, economics, our health. So you have to lean to the experts to be able to make the decisions that you have to do for our community. So that's been one point for me. But catch 22 to all of that growth is the pain that comes with growth and the trusting yourself, the vulnerability that comes with growth. And that's just something that I honestly and transparently am still working through every day. And I think our entire community is doing that. However, this is the season when we can grow the most, because we all have to lean into and trust each other to reimagine what things look like. So everything has an opportunity to change and transition, but that can also be transformation. So.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've always said, when you have difficult times like this, I always go back to Hurricane Katrina. It was another event that no one could really prepare for, the disaster that came after the hurricane had already passed.
Right.
And with that, there was an issue of, what do I do now when it comes to rebuilding myself or picking up the pieces? But at the same time, there was positivity that came out of it, especially from an entrepreneur standpoint, for a lot of individuals, you know, and you look now with the pandemic, it's forced everybody inside. It's forced everybody to kind of slow down and take a step back and really look at their overall balance of life and say, okay, what am I doing? Because I think at some point, and anybody can chime in at any time, everybody was moving so fast, and I don't think we all, you know, at times slowed down enough to really see what we were doing. You know, I look at myself, you know, even during the pandemic, I started a whole nother company, a software company, you know, and a lot of times people are like, wow, like, how could you even think about doing this when this is going on? And me, my answer is always, my mind's always going, I'm always trying to find something positive in a disaster, you know, something that I can hold on and grow from. So
can I mention something on that? I love that. First off, I think this is the single greatest time to start a company ever. And I'll say that because incumbents cannot reinvest at the moment. They are working to survive. And you have the attention of look at what we're doing today. You know, 100 people online, and something that would have never happened if the pandemic didn't occur. If there wasn't the movements in social justice that there was. Like, they just think of, you know, what it's created. And that's before I get into the personal stuff. Like, I just love that. And I think this was probably the only time in the majority of the adults in the country in their lifetime that they would be forced to stop. So, you know, most people can't. They don't have the opportunity to take a day off, take a weekend off. They don't get 2 weeks vacation like everybody else. But for a moment, you know, everyone is just sitting there at home. And I think if, like you said, Calvin, if they actually reflect, you know, and they say, like, do I want to be where I want to be? You know, I want to try something new. Like, that really was a pivotal moment. Hopefully, you know, some used it, some didn't, some needed to, some, you know, didn't need to. But I do think that was huge. Just, I guess, personally positive. We run a remote networking app, you know, so we've been teetering along for a while. You know, we've pivoted twice, and we were on the verge of essentially releasing when the pandemic hit, and everything changed for us. You know, we started, like, our wait list was always kind of adding a few people each month, mainly people we were talking to because, you know, we were building, right? It started growing. You know, we were at 23% growth month over month of our wait list, and we joined an accelerator, and we just had demo day yesterday, and we're raising around. You know, it inspired me, you know, in the time off to start, you know, finish my book. Essentially, I had it written, and I was too scared to push out. But, you know, I think I have to, you know, go with what was said in terms of the hard part is starting to pick out what's important and what's not. Because you can start a lot of projects.
Right.
Away from you really, really quickly.
So, Caroline, as a member of corporate America, talk to us a little bit about, you know, the difficulties the last 6 months, what that's looked like from a corporate standpoint.
Yes. So for us, it has been an unprecedented time of uncertainty. So, you know, everyone knows about, you know, all of the challenges that have been occurring in the oil and gas field. And for ExxonMobil specifically, you know, this definitely has to be in the top 3 of challenges that we've seen in our 110 plus year history. You know, we still have to run a plant. We still have to do our part to flatten the curve, make sure that we keep our folks safe. That's our top and most valuable asset that we have. And so what I see, though, from a positive standpoint, though, is how our employees have really, like, just quickly jumped in to start producing hand sanitizer, to start thinking about, you know, outside of the box ideas in order for us to do things more creatively. And also we've been able to, from a positive standpoint as well, is, you know, give back to the community, you know, never forget our community, to where we've been able to make donations with hand sanitizer. And we've also been able to, with the hand sanitizer to our schools, to our medical professionals, to those that are on the front lines. It really has forced our company to really be creative and think outside of the box and think about more innovative ways that we can go about serving our community and serving all of our customers. But yes, I think it doesn't even really need to be said how big of a challenge it has been. But the positive piece is to really see your greatest asset come together and figure out how to make, as Nenette likes to say, lemonade out of lemons.
Yes.
And that is a great segue to Nenette. Nenette, lemonade. To that saying goes around a lot. You have to mix it up. So tell me, for you during this pandemic, the difficulties that you may have faced, and some of your high points. Over the last 6 months, we've all had our ups and downs, and I'm sure you have as well. So, share a little bit about that with us, if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. One of the quotes that I want to mention that I've seen that I thought was really, it hit home with what we're dealing with, that not all storms come to disrupt your life. Sometimes they come to clear your path. And, prior to the pandemic hitting, we were doing really well. Our company is really event and conference trade show based. And so when everything was canceled, it's like, oh my God, that's 90% of our business when we were up 30% year over year, that now we've lost 90% of the business. So, when I say that quote about the storms coming to clear the path, at the moment I didn't see what was to come. So I did a little bit of a panic, and I was like, oh my God, this is container loads of lemons. I don't know if we can turn this into lemonade. But then I came back, to realizing that there could be opportunities. So we decided to pivot, and we pivoted to be able to provide PPEs and other things, because the reason for the pivot is I saw from a pricing perspective, everything skyrocketed. And it's like, are these people being gouged? And so from my perspective, I thought if we entered that area, we'd be able to help our friends, our community, our clients, and provide things at what I know would be a fair price. And even though it was a very small margin, it created a whole nother revenue stream. And as a result of that, I ended up with an opportunity with ExxonMobil, which was a blessing. I met Caroline several years ago at networking functions, and we've always been trying to do business and work together. We've done a little bit of business, but when the pandemic hit, it's something that really presented great opportunity. And we are actually ahead of all of last year to date as a result of the pivot. So it's been a very positive thing on one hand. The negative thing, as Courtney mentioned earlier, is the growth side of it, to be able to scale and everything to keep up with the growth. So that's what we've been experiencing.
So Nenette, you hit two things that one of them I definitely want to circle back. We're going to talk about that relationship with Exxon in just a second. But let me ask you this, and I'm gonna start with you. When you talk about networking, discuss some of the barriers of network and how do you get around that? Because a lot of times, I'm always asked the question, man, how did you get like perfect example? I was back in 2016. I was invited to the White House for the first time as one of 50 top business leaders for a business summit with Obama. And I came back the next week, and we had a session was going on. And I'm walking into the rotunda, and I saw two of my friends. They were like, how did you get into the White House?
Wow.
And honestly, I tell them, it's relationships. When you put forth a good relationship and you meet people, and you never know. I've always had this attitude, especially since college. You never know who you're talking to. When I'm shaking a hand, when I'm speaking to someone, when I'm in certain areas, I'm always cognizant of my surroundings, because I never know who's watching.
Right.
It helps me to gain those networks, to gain those relationships. So tell me, and we're going to start with you with that. So tell me some of the barriers that you've had in building your networks and And with those barriers, how did you get around them to be able to gain those networks to put you in position where you are now?
I think when you're talking about gaining your business and gaining more, the relationships with prospects and that type of thing, it first, people buy from people that they like and that they trust. And we all know that trust isn't something that could be gained overnight. It's something that evolves over time.
Yes.
One of the biggest challenges I had when I first started the company was I thought, I'll meet them and then we'll do business and, things are going to go like that. I mean, that's every, fresh entrepreneur's mindset. But then you hit the reality of it, that you may meet the people that are prime or the type of people that you would like to do business with, but it just may not be the time. And so the one thing I want to emphasize is consistency and gentle persistence, not persistence where you're trying to shove your product or services down someone's throat, but take the time to build a relationship. And I think that's one of the ways that I've been able to be successful. Also, be consistent. Okay.
Sorry, let me jump. And I'll just add patience to that.
Patience, absolutely.
Too many times you find as entrepreneurs, as business owners, they're wide-eyed, they're excited about starting a business, about being on, and they have this misconception that I'm gonna start a business, I'm gonna become a millionaire right off the bat, and that's not the case. A lot of business owners that have never even hit the $1 million mark and have been in business for 10, 15 years, and I tell people all the time, do not let money be the first thing on your mind when starting a business, because you will fail. You're too focused on making money versus growth, and that's the problem that I find. But I wanted to take that little part to what you were saying, because it's spot on of what you're saying when it comes to that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, patience is a virtue for sure.
Courtney, you got anything you want to jump in on that?
I do. I think that adding to the laundry list of everything that you guys said, because it's a great list that everybody should have, because one feeds the other, it's also trust. And that patience and trust part comes in, because a lot of times, I've had conversations with people where when we're on this side of it, and we start to look at that, and, Carolyn, I'm pretty sure you see that too. You see the vision and you see where you can work with the person, but you know that you may have some grooming, or you may have some things that you need them to adjust in their practices. And a lot of times people on the receiving side don't like to see that. And they also think that you're giving them a hard no, right? So that patience and that trust matters, especially if you have a relationship with someone that you've built a network with. You have to give trust to the person that is the giver. In that you need to reform in the way that you need to. And that's hard, because I've been both. I've been the business owner, and then now on the City-Parish side of things, sometimes you need people to work around your goals and your vision and your rules, federal, state, local, that have to happen to make sure that there's compliance. But patience and trust make that happen, because when you've built that relationship, you have to remember that the relationship is always there, and you have to trust and be patient that it will be rewarding for you.
Yeah.
And I'll probably add to that, Kasra, right before you jump, I would say preparation. A lot of times I've seen entrepreneurs jump into a situation or an opportunity and not be prepared for it. And that goes back to the networking piece, because you may be given an opportunity because of your personality. And one thing I always say is this: people don't do business with your company. They're doing business with you. Absolutely. They're doing business because of your personality and what they feel you bring to the table. But if the personality is great and then you come to the table and you're not prepared, you can lose that relationship just like that. As long as it's taking you to build that relationship, it can be gone just like that if you're not prepared. Kasra.
Go ahead. Oh,
okay.
Wait. One other thing I did want to add, and Nenette is a very good example of this, is adaptability. So when I think about, the fact that she wasn't afraid to bend a little bit with some of the requests that we were making, or trying to mold her business or how she operates with some of the things to kind of fit what we needed from a customer standpoint. That's a big key to things, is being able to adapt to how things are changing, especially during this unprecedented time, and then also being transparent. So you can't be afraid to tackle those barriers that may be preventing your business from becoming its best self, but you also need to be transparent. So, we've come to, Nenette and said, okay, hey, we need this, amount of masks, right? We needed, I think we asked initially for 7,000 that we needed by Friday. And Nenette was honest with us. Instead of just saying yes to get the business, she was like, okay, hey, I can get the 3,500 by this date, and then I can get the other half later on. And I know that may seem like a real trivial example, but the key there is you have to be transparent and honest with what it is that you're able to provide, so that you don't miss that first impression and making it successful. Because, I know it's an old adage, but first impressions are lasting impressions, right? Mm-hmm. And so because of like we use Lemonade definitely as a great example of, building these connections and having that, networking component, because she was able to successfully deliver on what she promised in a small order, we kept coming back for more and more and more and asking for more and more. So it's very important that you are able to be to adapt to the challenges, and that you're also honest and transparent with what it is that you can provide. So we started with a small order of maybe 1,000 masks, and by the time we were finished, we had a total of over 11,000 masks that we ended up purchasing from Lemonade. And when we first,
actually, it was closer to 19,000. Caroline.
Oh, okay, we've grown even more since then.
They get it right, huh?
Yeah, but the point being, we initially came to see what is it that we could do, right? We wanted to make sure that, we wanted to take a look at, yes, we have global suppliers, but we have really been focusing heavily on what is it that we can do in Baton Rouge, and also specifically to North Baton Rouge, because that's where we sit. That's where our business, is. That's where our sites are. And we have the support from our site management to really, think outside the box and get creative and build these relationships and build that network into where we can have more success stories like the one that we have with Lemonade. And there are some other examples, but that one is, probably near and dear to my heart, just because, like Nenette said, I remember meeting Nenette when you kind of first started your business and a few years ago, and how we've been working, and that consistent but persistent, like you mentioned earlier, of just, staying in front of us. I knew who you were. So when the call came and it was like, hey, who do we think could provide this? It was an opportunity for us to finally kind of connect those dots, because that opportunity was there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes, and thank you.
No, this is, I mean, I think this is kind of a mix of, obviously it's relationship building, but it's giving and taking. It's giving and asking, and then are you going to deliver? So, I think you can all accept networking is a very self-serving process. It's I think ignoring that is wrong, right? We're out to get something. But what I think a lot of us don't do is we don't find what we can give that's not just our product and service. Okay, what opportunities, how can we help that person without selling them something? And I think that comes down to listening. So, I've gotten more introductions to investors, more signups from offering people opportunities than I have asking them for what I actually want. They know what I want because intentions are clear. But when I'm listening to someone, I'm maybe finding an opportunity to invite them as a panelist for a startup grind. Maybe I'm asking them to, I mean, another startup. They could care less to use Mintor. I go, great, come pitch at one of our events. Someone's talking about something that they find interesting. The next day, my follow-up has nothing to do with my business at all. I'm following up and I'm sending them an article on something that I found really profound based on what they liked. Because at the end of the day, they're getting sold by everyone else. Okay. And if we care enough to just build a relationship and kind of take sales out of it, the sales will come, but we're going to build a huge pipeline, a huge network of people that don't, when they see our name pop up, they're not thinking, this freaking guy again, man, like, does he not get it? Does he not get that's a no, And, but when I do come back for my ask, I've given 4 times what I actually want from them, and especially with other entrepreneurs, like when I'm listening to them, of course, I'm looking for investor introductions. But what I'm doing first, when I'm listening to them, the second I get off, I send them 3 introductions to people that I know. And I because at the end of the day, like if that's what I want, I should be willing to give that and more, But again, I think there's 2 sides of this. Look, there's so many tactics and things to think about when you're actually selling. But my approach has always been as someone who does not have a network or community when we first moved here. And when I got out of school, realizing, damn, I don't know anyone, and it was this illusion when I was in college of who I actually knew. And it hurt that, right? So you start putting time aside. You start putting time aside to meet people around the industry, around the interests and places that you want to be.
So that's man, y'all are perfect on these segues. So I'm gonna ask this question. So I had a book that I wrote called No Secrets to Elevation, and it was about my success to becoming a successful entrepreneur. And I'm always asked, man, what is your secret sauce? What helps you to get to that point? And I want to start with you, Courtney, with this question. To me, there really isn't a secret to growth and to the networking. But how does a person and you're probably the best to start this off, because I've watched you work the room, right? I've been around you for a while now, probably for about 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I've watched you work the room. I've watched you do your thing. And how does a person expand their network? Like Kasra was saying, he started off not knowing anybody, and you have that one person that then all of a sudden, just like on LinkedIn, you may start with one connection, and all of a sudden you got 15 to 2,000 connections in your LinkedIn family. So how do you expand? Like, what is the secret or unsecret to expanding that network, expanding your connections, and what works and what doesn't work? How do you do that?
So my answer to that question first is to authentically be you. I think a lot of times people feel like they have to conform to a room, and there is a piece of that, right? There is a piece of who you need to be for every room. However, it's very important that you authentically bring yourself to the room all the time, because when people, you never know who's paying attention. Like you said, Calvin, we had the most unique introduction, but then ended up, because of the way we navigated that introduction of meeting each other on an errand, built a strong relationship that we know now as a future bond. But that's because you were authentically you and I was authentically me. And in that, I think a lot of times people, especially when you're in new industries, have a tendency to feel like you have to bring something else to the table. And there's an evolution of yourself that does need to happen. But Courtney is going to be Courtney. And I remember we were at an event yesterday, and a good friend of ours, TJ, was saying, Courtney Hustle is here. And then he said, oh, wait, it's Courtney Scott, because she's a professional now. And I said, well, I've been a professional my entire life, but the Courtney Hustle moniker is a conversation starter. And because it is a name that I do in my radio life or entertainment, and they're like, that doesn't match with government. But I bring my authentic self to the room every day. And I am cultured. I am a community curator. I bring people together, and I believe in new relationships. But that's why I can always continue to be myself in every room that you're in. So that's part one, authentically being you. But the second side of that is difficult, is authentically being you and accepting it no matter what. Accepting that you're good enough. Accepting that if you happen to fail or not do so great, there's some growth that you have to put in there, but you have to accept it and not think that, oh, I didn't bring this perfect version of myself. No, maybe that opportunity was too big for you. That's where that truth comes in, where, you know, Nenette was truthful about, can't package that order in that amount of time. However, I can do this. But you have to be confident within yourself. And that's some self-work that you have to do. That's a reality of networking and building, because I remember my father used to always tell me, and I didn't accept it at first. He said, people are to be used. And I said, well, no, that's not true. He said, no, you're thinking misuse, not misuse. But the value of building mutually beneficial relationships is that a person is there if you need them, but you have to bring value to the room as well, so they feel like you can reciprocate when needed. So you're there to use each other when needed to make an impact. But you have to be true to yourself of what you can bring to the table. And you know, for me, I have a very, very colorful background. And coming into the government space, there's a lot of questions of, well, who is she? And where did she work? And why does she need to be here? So sometimes I'll even authentically have moments where I feel like I have to prove myself. But one thing about Courtney, and I'm confident in saying this, my work will always speak for itself. And the hustle name comes because I will always work. By any means. I'm going to make sure that there's impact. I'm going to make sure that there's accuracy. I'm going to make sure that there's ethics. Like, those are all things that you never have to question when it comes to me. But that's why I can authentically keep coming into a room, because you know when Courtney's there, the needle's about to move. And you have to keep doing that.
Can I say something to that really quick?
Yeah, please.
Okay, when you talk, I like what you said about, you know, knowing your worth. And I think a lot of us really undervalue ourselves.
Yes.
And what our values are. And so, no, not our values, what we have of value. Okay. So the fact that we're speaking right now, we're speaking English. Okay. That is a value that you have to share. And I'll tell you why. I'll give you my personal example. My father, you know, he was an amazing person. He was my best friend, businessman. You know, my family started 7 businesses before I was 18. You know, we moved 5 times before I was 18. I only knew change and hustle, and I just thought that was normal, right? But when we got into a room, no one would speak to my dad. If we started talking, what would happen? Halfway through, his English would start breaking down, and that conversation would stop as well. So I'm saying, like, you can think of even the simplest things are valuable, and I wouldn't, you know, no matter where you are, you need to just, you know, reflect and go, okay, I know movies really well. I know this. I'm speaking to kind of those aspiring entrepreneurs too, right? Where they think themselves, all I can do is ask for help. Like, no, the fact that you can show up to an event, that means something. The fact that you're able to have that conversation, that means something. And so I think all of us can kind of see that we do need to reevaluate how much value we have, because, you know, people always seem to approach connection from a disadvantage versus trying to figure out how they can be advantageous to others. So
let me ask you this: from a minority standpoint, do you think it's harder for minorities, for Blacks, to get into those circles, those networking circles that could be beneficial to them, even though they may come, like Courtney said, well represented? You know, their work has spoken. But people still feel, because they may be minority, because they may be Black, that they're not worth being at the table.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I would just say, I mean, just a point on this is, damn right. Yeah, of course, man. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you know, and so I'll say this, as I only recently, my brain almost recently woke up. My fiance is a social worker and activist, and I've only spent my whole life ignoring the things that have happened to me. And it was over the pandemic where, as these companies started posting, we posted a story about what we would do in our part in change. And I wrote things that I've never told anyone. And it's just the sliver of what, you know, minorities feel in this country, you know? And I think the more we talk about it, like, I feel better having talked about it. Now, you know, my family didn't have a community here, right? And there was no place in the discussion for Iranians, right? And you know, because it's just not as big of a deal, and because there's not many of us. So
right,
we only learned to just just be quiet and work really hard. And I adopted that in a probably too aggressive of a way, almost ignoring who I was. No, really, what pissed me off most about networking was that I felt like I was acclimating and changing to people and to their environments, and I was still being dismissed, and that really upset me. And only recently I found to be honest with myself about what's happened. Now, yeah, and I'll pass it on to you guys. I'm sure there's a lot.
And I want to add to that too, to say one thing. You just talked about how you tried to conform to a room and it didn't work. And then there's nothing more disheartening when you try to conform and it doesn't work. And then you realize I could have been myself the entire time. And I keep boasting on that because I think that that's a reminder that everyone needs. Even now, today, I'm saying it. I probably need to clip this to remind it to myself on those days where you have to make sure, because you have to do that. But when it comes to minorities being in a room, women being in a room, everyone has that moment where, yes, there is a time that you are at a disadvantage. However, that network is what can prove greatest to you. And I think what's important about that network, I worked on Mayor Broom's transition committee when she first came in. There was a variety of people in the room. And in our first set of conversations, there was a lady who is now one of my closest professional friends, and we were clashing. We just couldn't see eye to eye. A bit of it was race relations. A bit of it was classism and social status. And not that either of us had it. We were just advocating for two different things. When we realized that we were holding the group of people we were working for back because we couldn't work together, a beautiful relationship formed that has been beneficial to both of us. But we needed each other. And that's not a popular opinion when you start to talk about race or class or sex, because people think that because you're against me in this corner, I'm going to go to this corner and we're going to fight alone. Well, we're so distant and apart when the work is in the middle, and we have to work together. We all have something we can unlearn to learn, to be able to build. And I see that Emmanuel Milton is on here. I'm going to use a term that he's always talked to me about. It's about curing versus containing. We don't need another program. I mean, we do need the programs, but the bigger picture, the bigger adaptive issue is we don't need another program to give a small percentage. We need to level the playing field for everyone. And that's something that has to happen, but it's going to be a long-term systemic issue that has to change. We're going to need minority businesses to build more capacity. That's not a popular opinion. We can't just open the door if you have capacity, because I can open the door for you and you can fail. And now we've broken it down for everyone.
Courtney,
you can build.
And again, you hit it with a great segue, Caroline. So with what Courtney just said, I'm going to put you on the spot with ExxonMobil. And it's a simple question. Why Nenette? She's a minority. She's a woman. Why did Exxon choose to do a contract with Nenette for PPE? Why what was the reason?
Okay.
As we talk about minorities and blacks in entrepreneurship, getting to the table, getting that foot, the networking. Why did Exxon choose Nenette to do this, to secure this opportunity? Speak on it.
Okay, so for ExxonMobil, we have had a supplier diversity program that's been working for more than 40 years. And we focus on the inclusion of minority and women-owned businesses. And so one of the key cornerstones, one of our key focuses that we look at from what our culture is inclusion and diversity, right? So we fully and wholeheartedly believe that when you have non-homogeneous teams, it's just simply smarter. Working with people who are different than you, it really challenges your brain to kind of overcome that stale thinking and then sharpen your performance. And so we think it's important so yes, we do recognize as well that we need to foster those relationships and build that networking. Yes, we have what we call our CSAs. So those are like our continuing services agreements. And it's not because it's race-based, it's because we're accustomed to working with the people that we've always worked with because they've delivered on the materials or supplies or things that we needed, right? But because we wholeheartedly believe in the importance in how successful it builds the corporation to have that supplier, that inclusion and diversity, we're really trying to think outside of the box and figure out more creative ways. And so, like I mentioned before, did we have other suppliers that we could have gone to procure the masks that we needed? Maybe so. But what we've been challenging ourselves with, especially with the teams that we've established, is with all of the purchases that we're looking to make, we're trying to challenge ourselves to see whether or not there is a diverse supplier that we can go to provide those services, just so we can bring that opportunity, get a different perspective. And so we have wholeheartedly, looked out into what opportunities are there. We're taking a stopgap to say, before we make a purchase, is there a diverse supplier that we may be able to go to that provides the services that we need? And having the corporate, board of directors completely engaged and focused and committed to improving what we're doing in a supplier diversity realm, and then also having that come from our corporate level down to what we're doing from a local standpoint in Baton Rouge is huge. And we have the full commitment and alignment with all of our Baton Rouge area managers. We have 5 plants in the area, and every single one of those plant managers are committed to engaging local diverse suppliers as much as feasible.
So, Nenette, I want to get your feedback. Describe that experience. When you got the call that you were going to, be able to provide PPE to ExxonMobil. Describe the experience and what that felt like for you.
Oh my God, I thought I hit the lottery. No, no, it was. It was truly a blessing because, as I mentioned, when the pandemic hit and 90% of our business was out the window, there was a lot of uncertainty on where we were going to be able to go moving forward. And so when I got the email that asked if I'd be interested in providing, to compete for that business, I was so excited and glad that we were given a seat at the table and an opportunity. That's all we ever asked. And one of the things that was mentioned earlier, sometimes as a small business, you think you're ready for certain things straight out the door, and when I started several years back, I thought I was ready for this type of opportunity. But in order to build capacity over the years, that's something that puts you in a better position when your preparation meets the opportunity and these types of opportunities come. As Courtney mentioned, one of the worst things that could be is for me to say, yes, we can, and we fail to deliver. And so I'm always about under-promising and over-delivering, because if I fail to deliver, then now that makes them weary about trusting another diverse supplier that maybe hasn't had any track record with them. So, it's been a great opportunity for us. Not only the purchases that they made for PPE, but the fact that they actually helped to lift us, in communications. They mentioned it on their social media. As a result of that, Formosa Plastics called, Turner called, Aptum called. Wow. So, a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think sometimes large corporations, can't see the forest for the trees, not ExxonMobil, not Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they don't realize that when you spend locally, spend with, diverse suppliers, small business, it makes a tremendous impact within the communities. It increases the tax revenue, the income that we earn. We're able to now purchase other things within the community, and it absolutely lifts the community. So it may seem like something small to them, but to the small and diverse, or just, businesses in general that are local, it really, really makes a difference. So it's been a great thing that, had it not been for the pandemic,
Right.
this opportunity obviously wouldn't have happened. So we're very grateful.
Well, definitely congratulations again, Courtney. So, you've been with the mayor for a while now, and the mayor, she's awesome. She's, one of my mentors, been knowing her for years. And one of the things that I appreciate about her is her openness to make opportunities for minorities and for
Yes.
Blacks with government. And since you are, in the government space, what do you see as an opportunity for entrepreneurs, for Black and minority entrepreneurs? What is it that they can do to make themselves ready or available? What do the government, as far as the municipality that you represent, what do you look for to be able to bring those opportunities to the table for minorities and Blacks? Because I know
Sure.
that the mayor has done a lot to try to open those doors for them.
She has. First and foremost, this year, 2019, we completed a disparity study. A lot of people thought, well, what's the purpose in doing a study for something that we already know? Well, the purpose in doing that study was to get the legal foundational basis needed to begin the steps of trying to create a fair share program. The mayor and my fellow ACAO, Vineet Iyengar, who's over economic development, are working steadfast to make sure that we create these opportunities, the short-term outcomes that we were talking about, the opportunities for fair share, where percentages of contracts and programs need to be able to go to minority businesses and disadvantaged businesses. Now, that's the mayor's office doing their side of the work. Another thing that Mayor Broome is always really important, sharing to us, that's very important, is that as a team, we need to meet businesses where they are and share the opportunities that are out there. So not only do you have your standard government contracts, but you also have the Office of Community Development that puts out CDBG grants for certain businesses that work within low to moderate income areas. A lot of businesses don't take the time to learn what the opportunities are. So first step for any businesses out there is learn what the opportunities are, because you do have large scale government contracts. Yes, that's the gold mine that everybody's trying to get to. But along the way, every department head spends dollars, whether it's your small transactional business to consumer business, or there may be those small contracts based upon needs assessments that are out there that will never make it to an RFP process because they are small. But those small opportunities create those pathways for referrals. Like Nenette just said, I love that. Rising tide sails ships. You have to rise by getting your feet in the door with the business. So that's the second thing that I would say. And then thirdly, don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. As any person that is a resident of Baton Rouge, you pay our salaries. So we are responsible to answer your questions. We are here to be accountable to you, to educate you. So don't be afraid to say, I need a meeting just to get information. I just want to know more. And that's something that you'll start to see in this season too, that Mayor Broome has put at the forefront of meeting businesses where they are, because we need to just share more information. We don't need to just wait until an opportunity comes. We need to also give some capacity building and technical assistance to businesses to make sure that they have all of their irons in the fire and doing what they need to do. And then the last thing that I would say is make sure you have an accountant and a lawyer that you're connected to, because when it comes to doing business with City-Parish, you have to have your ducks in a row. Yes, you're going to have to invest in insurance. Yes, for some of these things, you're going to have to be bonded and licensed. Yes, you're going to have to get some certifications, but that's some investing that you have to do in yourself that oftentimes, putting my entrepreneur hat back on, we don't want to spend the extra $400 or $500 to get these certifications or make sure we have a DUNS number, because we look at that as expending resources that won't ever give us a return. If you're in this for the long game, and you want to be vested into contracting, into corporations or any government entity, these are things that you're going to have to do. And the more years you've had these things, the better you're evaluated when you start to have RFPs. So those are the tips that I would offer.
No,
Calvin,
those are great tips. I definitely
Calvin,
have
I wanted
used.
to add to what Courtney was mentioning. We've been able, so the mayor created the Baton Rouge POP, so the Baton Rouge Procurement Opportunity Program, and that has been very beneficial to ExxonMobil. So Baton Rouge POP is a collaboration of different businesses. So there's representation from the oil and gas market, health fields, Blue Cross Blue Shield, etc. And there's also the partnership with Metromorphosis. And so what Metromorphosis has been able to help provide is to do some of the things that Courtney just shared, right? With helping the minority businesses get prepared, right? Making sure that they have kind of your quote unquote all your ducks in a row to where you're able, when those opportunities present themselves, you're able to get your foot in the door. And because of the partnership, we're able to also provide to them kind of the things that we're looking for, you know, specifically like what materials or commodities that we're looking for. And then they're also able to kind of ask us questions on, you know, what are those processes? How do you actually get your foot into the door with a large corporation like an ExxonMobil? And so those types of partnerships and getting involved with those local resources, right? It really, you know, it's a win-win, and it's been very beneficial. I mean, I think the Baton Rouge POP, and Courtney, you correct me if I'm wrong, originated about a year or so ago. And when I think about, you know, just the networking and the different businesses and the expenditures, you know, has grown exponentially. And you think about those small wins, right? It's not always about, you know, looking for this $1 million contract. Sometimes we take, you know, a small purchase or a small request, like, and I know we keep talking about Lemonade, but I'm very proud of that. But when I think about, you know, such a small request, when we first are asking about $1,000 purchase that then evolves into almost $20,000, and the impact that it has not only in Louisiana, but we were able to, you know, have some of our sister sites in Texas, in Billings, Montana, even into Canada. It's that small piece, right? And being prepared and utilizing those resources that are here locally, right, to help you get prepared. It's just, I just can't speak enough about that.
And one thing to add too, I know we're kind of running tight on time. When it comes to preparation, here's something really big that we have found within the mayor's office, and we're having conversations with financial institutions on a regular basis. Doing business in the government space and even in the corporate space as well, but I'll speak specifically to government. We pay on slower rates. So what that means is, and I'm just being transparent, you have to have your financial footing together to do this. So what that means is having a hard look as a business owner to say, am I financially in a place to be able to have this business? Because sometimes you might have to spend $10,000 to $15,000 to get $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 later, and you need to be able to float those dollars for 30 to 45 days, and that's a short time. That's a short time frame. So as a business owner, some of the other due diligence that you have to do is making sure that your finances are in order, because in order to step into that frame of business, you have to have the support. You have to be able to have a line of credit. And that doesn't mean that's the only way you can do business, but that's something that I think a lot of people who have done that, and, you know, Nenette, you can probably offer that as well. You wish someone would have told you what you need to be able to support this so you don't become broken in the process.
With these programs, I would just, I'll just talk about it from the failure side of it. Okay, so because what's going to happen is you're going to have hundreds and you're going to have thousands of people applying to, trying to bid for the same contract, trying to get this job, that project, that relationship, and the 99% of them are not getting it. And so I think it's like what's failing for them is that, and something maybe they can take is, don't be afraid to reach back out and say, don't ask why I didn't get it. Ask why the person that got it from all the anonymously that you can provide, why they got it. And try to understand those, because look, we can all look up, there's templates on, we can go to, the SCORE, we can go learn how to do business plan, all these. And the problem I think with a lot of businesses is that they don't close the feedback loop fast enough. They don't understand why they didn't get it and why the other person did, and trying to, and again, in the meantime, I think this goes back to where we started, is like, all these things are great, but someone sitting behind a computer with a business that's teetering, maybe okay, is applying to hundreds of these, just like, people looking for jobs, right? And they get none, or they get a few responses, maybe. And then what's happening is that they're just feeling, done. And I think for them, something that people don't do enough is they don't go back and ask. They don't go and try to, close that feedback loop and see, what is it that I need to do better? And then, like we said in the beginning, stay out there networking, and don't be asking for any projects or any sales. Just be out there, so the next time your name comes up, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. At the end of the day, you want your name to come up when someone's having a conversation, and not because like you have an ego and you brag. No, just because they enjoy chatting with you, because you gave them something. Oh, that guy sent me that Twitter thread. It was hilarious. Or he sent me that article. It was very, thought-provoking. Because you're not going to get 99% of the stuff, or you might not get anything. So
no, and that's absolutely true. And I mean, you all have given some great points, some great information, and I'm hoping that all of our attendees today have been taking notes, have been taking this information in, because at the end of the day, what you see here is a lot of the end product. Whether it's myself, Courtney, Kasra, Nenette, we're the end product to the networking, to getting your foot in the door, to being confident and prepared to be able to go in and have these opportunities. But at the end of the day, be prepared, be confident, stay diligent, and it will work. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to open it up to question and answer. We do have a couple of questions in the inboxes from some of our attendees to ask. And if anybody else want to ask a question, definitely click ask a question and submit, and we'll try to get to it. So for Exxon, we did have a question from Albert DuPont. Albert wanted to know, does Exxon and others in Louisiana support LGBT business owners in supply diversity?
Yes. In 2015, we did formally expand the diversity categories in our program to include lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender-owned businesses, as well as small businesses, veteran-owned businesses, service-disabled businesses, and those owned by people with disabilities. Like I mentioned before, we're very confident that, by having this broader scope and momentum will bring even more diversity of thought and experience into our global supply chain.
All right. This next one's for Courtney from Dorian Nunez. Dorian wanted to know, he said, Baton Rouge Pension Fund has over $1 billion under management. A lot of it is venture capital, but none with minority firms. Baton Rouge, he says, Baton Rouge firms nor minority venture capitalist funds. I don't know if that was a comment or a question.
And if that's a question of access, that is something that we are working on adamantly within our office to make sure that there is proper allocation to minority and DBE firms that are out there, to make sure that awareness is made as well. So we recently had a partnership with eBay in 2019, where we had a lot of our business retail-based companies that had an opportunity to get direct support and technical assistance from eBay, with training that would be, of course, geared to their platform, but it would also give them a lot of information outside of that as well. We made sure that that eBay did a direct target to our minority businesses. We actually specified that their COO of diversity and inclusion came to Baton Rouge to interact specifically with our minority businesses. So he came down to Baton Rouge and did something at Southern University. So we're working and advocating on that on our end, but we know that there's much more work to be done, and definitely committed to that cause.
Okay. Our next question was for Exxon. Tell us about your challenges in getting MBE firms as suppliers. What resistance have you gotten historically?
Say the first part of that. I heard your end part. What was the first part of the question, Calvin?
All right. He said, tell us about your challenges in getting MBE firms as suppliers. What resistance have you gotten historically?
I wouldn't say that we've received resistance. Like I mentioned, we've always and we've had the programs in place for a while for us to bring in diverse suppliers. I wouldn't say resistances, but if I think about challenges, some things have maybe been the overcommitment that a company has stated that they would be able to provide us with certain resources and not able to make that commitment. I know another realm has possibly been, and I think Courtney kind of mentioned a little bit about this before too, is making sure that you have the financial resources to provide the materials in advance. So, large corporations don't typically pay you in advance. We pay, after the fact. And so making sure, and we're not writing, checks or doing, just straight, credit card transactions. We have a whole SAP process. And so, you have to go through that process to get set up. And so that may take a couple of weeks for us to make all of that process go through. So having that capital up front to where you're able to float things until the payment can come about may be a challenge, I would say, that a DBE has had in the past. But again, there hasn't been a resistance by the corporation to not utilize diverse suppliers. We feel very strongly about the benefits and the strengths that inclusion and diversity brings, not only from our personnel, but those that we work with, within the community, from our contractor workforce, as well as the suppliers that are helping us to make the materials that we provide to the community.
Okay. Calvin, I wanted to add a little bit to that. Caroline mentioned, and also Courtney mentioned, about access to capital and having lines of credit. With our company, it's a product based in terms of the merchandise that we sell. So having lines of credit is very, very important. What I wanted to emphasize was the relationship with your banker. Up until recently, I never really had an established relationship with my business banker that I have now. I can call him on his cell phone. Hey, we got this project coming up. We're going to need this, that, or the other. But it makes the world a difference in being able to pursue additional opportunities. It's, again, the relationship piece extends to the banker, and, being able to get your ducks in a row to have those lines of credit available to pursue those kinds of business.
Yeah, to your point, Nenette, you have to be able to compete, right? You have to be able to, be adaptable and flexible and compete with the other suppliers, the majority suppliers that are, looking for business. And, I'd also say too, getting onto the bid slate. So, that may have been a challenge before, and from a standpoint of not knowing what those diverse suppliers were. So now that we, have these partnerships, we have a Metromorphosis, we have Baton Rouge Pop, we have the teams that we have in place internally, the networking that we do with some of the local conferences like a WeBack. And so now that we have that information, we're able to ensure that those opportunities are, that those resources are being included on those bid slates. Because if you're not known, you can't get an opportunity to have your foot in the door to be considered for the bids that come about.
All right. So we have another question, which I think is a real good one from Todd Lowry. Todd's actually with Nexus Louisiana. Do any of the panelists have advice regarding tools and best practices that they've used to network? And I'll start with me. One of the things that I've always done, and Courtney kind of alluded to this earlier. I've always been myself. I'm a people person. You can't be afraid to go into a room. I've been in many rooms where I didn't know anybody when I walked in, and when I left, I knew half the room and left an impression, with them. And a lot of times, you don't have to go into a room trying to sell something. Just go in and be yourself. It may be cracking a joke or just talking about topics of the day, but at times we try to throw ourselves on people, and that's not always the best practice. Just go in there, be yourself, be confident, when you go in a room, and always, please, by always have business cards on you. When a person asks for your contact information, you don't want to be writing it down. Hand them a business card. So that goes back to preparation. That's always been a pet peeve of mine. Anybody else?
Don't forget to make the contact too. I think that that's important, Calvin, because a lot of times after we do that part that you just mentioned, we walk out of the room and we feel like we're not ready to have that conversation. But a lot of times things start over coffee, and people watching your growth is key. And I'm living proof of that. Connecting with people early. You may not have a reason to connect with them that day, but if you had an authentic conversation, send a note, send a card. Those are small things that just kind of keep you top of mind in people's inbox, and it also gets you through the spam filter when you do try to email later because you built that connection. So those are small things to do. You know, networking is not a big feat. It's not a big task. It's just connecting and being yourself and being true.
And I think being consistent, you know, there's some events that come about every year. And I look at over the course of the years when I participated years ago where we were, and continuing to show up and show up and show up, you know, people, again, get comfortable and want to do business with people that they trust. And so over time, being consistent with some of the same events, I mean, and the certifications, I think, are also important because they have great opportunities for network. We're MBE certified, WEBEC certified, and also with Louisiana Hudson Initiative, which I think is an amazing program. So I think going in with the perspective, you know, like Courtney mentioned, of being your authentic self, and then also going in with a giver's mentality. What can you give? Because you got to give before you get.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And it's an old adage, but first impressions are lasting impressions. It's very, very important that you are successful that first time around because you may not get a second chance.
Absolutely.
Calvin, you're gonna hate this. I don't have business cards. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I do. I'm that guy. I'm that guy who doesn't have it. But you know, I do actually understand your point. I mean, actually, when my safety consulting venture failed, because I used to be in occupational safety, so I worked in plants actually. I did my own safety consult. If I could go back, I would have found a 40-year-old co-founder to do the sales for me, because again, I was just being me and I wasn't adjusting enough. You know, so yes, have business cards because people are going to care about that. You know, and it doesn't. You know, I think we have to kind of get away from like, oh, this is just the way that I network. Like, you know, and I do think that like that sometimes, but I need some more. But on the tool front, really quick, there's a lot of tips and tricks, like, you know, 48-hour follow-up rule, right? 48, 72 hour, whatever. You just follow up, you know, always, and just be in that contact. You know, try to dress the best you can. You know, there's all those little things to definitely do. For me on the tool front, get you a calendar meeting link with your available times, you know, and you know, there's an appropriate way to send that. You know, you offer a couple of dates and times, always 2, and then, but you also put in there, if it's easier for you, you can book on this link, you know, and so you're giving people both options. You're meeting them, whether maybe they want to tell you only through emailing a time and date, but maybe they also don't mind booking on the link. I've seen it on both sides. The other is I have a document. It's literally just about me. And it's like a little wiki where if you click it, it says me, my topics of interest, how I can help you, and how you can help me. And then every link to all my socials. So like it's at the bottom of my email address, because at the end of the day, like I want to make that public, because there's no, it shouldn't be a secret. What is it I'm looking for today, right? And I update it probably every couple of weeks. There should be no secret as to what you want. And if you can't, you know, just write that out, then it's gonna be harder to communicate to someone too, you know? So I have that written out. It's on the bottom of my email. Anyone can click at any point. And then secondly, there's 2 calendar links you should have. That's just my opinion, 2 calendar links. One, where you're trying to get other people to book you for meetings, you know, maybe like selling, or you're pushing for that, right? The other is open networking hours. So I have another link that's just my chat link. and I keep about 3 hours a week open on it. And it's booked up for the next 3 weeks, but it's indefinite. And I let anyone, no prerequisites, no matter where they are, if somebody wants to meet with you or wants to learn from you or anything, be like, hey man, absolutely. Send that link and let them know that you're open to it, because again, you may not need anything from that person, but you may need it. They may know someone, or they may get inspired by you. So tool, I would say it's those 3 things.
Awesome. So with all of this, and we're here today talking about networking, about getting a foot in the door, and how to move forward with that. How can people get in contact with you guys? I know we've had some of the attendees ask the question, man, can I get contact info on everybody? So how can people get in contact with you all? Courtney?
So my email address is cmscott, CMSCOTT @brla.gov. I'll put it in the chat as well. That's always a great way to connect with me. I'm very, very active on social media. It is a professional, personal tracking of my life and work. I share a lot of tips and what is happening or coming up within my sphere of work within the mayor's office. And that's on Instagram @WatchCourtWork, @WatchCourtWork. LinkedIn is another great way to connect with me there. Too. So those are the best ways to get in touch with me. And just remember, I'm a public servant, so I'm here to serve, connect, and support how we can.
Kasra?
I'll also include the contact information. So we do have a local supplier diversity team, and one of our team members is Megan Manchester. She's one of our public and governmental affairs advisors. So I'll include her contact information in the chat as well, or I can send it back to Nexus Louisiana, and they can share it for us from that standpoint.
All right. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Nenette @lemonadecreativemarketing.com. So it's the entire name of the company. I'm active on social media as well. LinkedIn is the preferred. So Nenette Lusk Gray on LinkedIn, or on Instagram, Taste of Lemonade is the Instagram connection.
And for me, Kasra at mintor.co, mintor.co. But I left my Calendly link in here. Anybody wants to meet, that's the best way. You can meet with me anytime, no prerequisites, and that's it.
And mine, you can find me on IG at Calvin F. Mills Jr., on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Calvin Mills Jr. My email is cmills@slttechla.com. That's 2 T's. And yeah, that's it. So, guys, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, yes.
I was just going to mention too, we also have social networking. We're on Facebook and Instagram as well. And the reason why I just wanted to clarify, I didn't want it to sound as if I wasn't interested in working with anyone, because that's definitely not the case, and Nenette can speak to that. I just think that it may be easier for we utilize our public and governmental affairs as a point of contact, because they just kind of help to get the questions that are being asked to the right people. So I'm definitely, like I mentioned before, very passionate about what we're doing in inclusion and diversity in that realm, as well as what we're doing from a supplier diversity standpoint. And I will ensure that I get the information to Nexus. I can't type it in the chat because I'm actually utilizing my phone for this event, but I will make sure that the information gets shared.
And Megan is very awesome, by the way.
Yes.
So, guys, as you know, we're getting ready to come to the end of this. And this has really been a fantastic panel discussion. I'm definitely glad to have been a part of it. For our attendees, I want to make sure you guys know today is not the last day, but definitely come back tomorrow. Find out what's next for the Baton Rouge ecosystem when it comes to entrepreneurship. That's what we'll be discussing tomorrow. And don't forget to join in. If you want to help solve the challenges that you've heard today, if you're a business owner and you want to get help directly with your company, you can go and fill out I want to get involved link down at the bottom, and we'll definitely get you plugged in. I also want to give a special thank you to our sponsors, of course, myself and ExxonMobil, Caroline. We definitely appreciate the support that you've given Nexus Louisiana. And we really are thankful that you were able to help us to put this on. But definitely want to say a huge thank you to our awesome staff at Nexus, Lauren Castine and Wendy Overton. These ladies have definitely been working in the background over the last couple of months to make sure that we put forward, this great program for you guys, for entrepreneurs and small business owners that wanted to get this information, wanted to get the knowledge to move forward and invest in themselves. So we definitely want to say thank you to you all. And of course, my panelists, thank you to all of you. You all have given some great insight today. It's been a great interaction with you all. I definitely look forward to keeping in contact with you all. Courtney and I, we see each other pretty often. Nenette, we haven't seen each other that much, but definitely need to catch up. Caroline, you'll probably be getting a call from me because I am an entrepreneur and small business owner.
All right. I welcome it.
And Kasra, it's definitely great meeting you via this panel discussion today. And definitely to our attendees for joining us and their willingness to come in and be involved in this. Please check the survey. Let us know how we did, what we didn't do, what could be better. And we look forward to meeting all of you soon. And please stay safe during this pandemic. Stay sanitized. And God bless. Thank you all for being here today. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.